Hi, everyone. We're here with our 11th Points to Ponder, going over Chapter 11 on interest groups. And so again, as we've done with the previous Points to Ponder, we've looked at current issues that are connected then to those chapters. So we have a current issue to consider when we look at interest groups here in Chapter 11. And we're looking at the issue of unions, and specifically looking at police unions and the relationship between the police and communities within cities has certainly been a big issue throughout this whole summer that we've had this class, and of course even before this summer class. So in your text on pages 433 and 434, you can see some material about labor groups, one of the examples of interest groups. Now, generally we associate labor groups with labor unions. And of course, there's a fair question to say, would you then connect the police with labor groups? So overall, we can see that labor is not that powerful in the United States. From just a sheer number point of view, as your text mentions, represents 2% of the total number of interest groups that are registered to lobby in Washington, 2%. So that's a pretty small number, as we can see there. But we can see evidence that police unions in major cities are able to garner quite a bit of political power. This is from an article in Rolling Stone magazine, came out very recently. And I have the link there that you can at least, get some sense of where you can go to get this article. But here we can see the example of the power of police unions. So as you can see from the article, police unions from major cities have spent $87 million lobbying in the last 20 years. So persuading lawmakers to make policies that are beneficial to police unions. One of the big issues has been whether or not individual police officers could be held liable for their actions. And we can see here, this is a very demanding job, and risk or time have to be taken. And so therefore, when should there be, if ever, a situation where a police officer would be held liable for the activities that a police officer has done? If the police are chasing a suspect, if the police are trying to apprehend a suspect, if the police make a mistake on the suspect that they're seeking, are those grounds for a lawsuit? Does that now cause the police officers not to go out and be aggressive in a way that could be helpful and important to a society? It's an ongoing debate for sure. How do we find that balance? We can see that's an ongoing question for our society. On a side note, if you want to find out more on where the political power might be located, if you just want to find out what groups are giving to particular politicians, this is an excellent site that's available to you on the internet, referred to as Open Secrets. And so here's where you can find where the money goes. Open Secrets. But we can look at a couple of presidents in their history, and what helped to elevate their status in some ways was their ability to react to a union. Should a union, if it's a form of public service, be able to hold the public in some form hostage while they're seeking their benefits? And give you these examples. This is Calvin Coolidge when he was governor of Massachusetts. He was dealing with a Boston police strike, and he had a large number of police officers just walk off the job. And so his determination here was, the way he reached this conclusion is, as you can see from the quote, and this was from a letter that he sent to the police officers, there is no right to strike against public safety by anyone. So, okay, you're seeking greater benefits. You have a right to do that if you're a police officer. As far as Calvin Coolidge was concerned, you did not have the right to risk public safety in the pursuit of those benefits. And so that's one of the ways of kind of recognizing that, again, that debate, where do you have this right to seek assistance and greater recognition or protection, but are there also responsibilities to the job that you have? This was also, as you can see there in 1919, in 1981, while he was president, you had Ronald Reagan, and he had received the endorsement of the air traffic controllers when he was running for president. But after he had been elected president, and he had only been on the job for, at this point, less than a year, and the air traffic controllers they went on strike and walked off the job. And you had then flights all across America that were grounded. And Reagan fired all of the air traffic controllers and then opened up those jobs to get some more people brought in. But again, the question was, do you have a right to put the public safety at risk in the pursuit of your goal? And to Reagan, no, he did not have that right. So there's a limitation on where a strike can take you if you have a public responsibility. As far as both Coolidge and Reagan were concerned, of course, many other presidents would have reached those conclusions as well. Now, with that said, so maybe police officers can't go on strike, but that doesn't stop them from having other strategies. And if you follow this in recent days and weeks, some of the reactions by Atlanta police, not a strike, but a large number of Atlanta police officers getting sick at once. Maybe with COVID, it's hard to exactly tell, but more than likely that's a sick out. And so instead of having a walkout, you just have a sick out. People call in sick, can't show up to work. And by and large, most offices, you don't want people showing up if they're sick. And police officers are probably in the same situation. And sometimes, as we can see, that's referred to as the blue flu. So how do you stop that? And people may really be sick, but then again, to have, let's just throw the number out here, I don't know if this is accurate, but let's say you have half the police officers sick. How exactly did that happen, right? And of course, I think we can anticipate that might there be situations like this in the future, in the very near future, if you have states such as Florida, which has really seen a spike right now in COVID cases, and yet you've also had administrators in that state that are involved in education say schools must, this is the headline just from a couple of days ago, and I'm recording this on July the 8th. Florida schools must reopen with in-person instruction, Education Commissioner says. So the Education Commissioner says, going to have school, teachers are going to be there. You know, so what health protections are there for the teacher? So here's an interesting twist on that whole idea of public safety. So here you don't have the teachers walking out and risking this safety, but you could have teachers say, by attending, you are now risking our health. And how will that reaction be? So what if you start to see a sick out from teachers, and perhaps in this case in anticipation of getting sick? So how do you determine that something is a strike or is a genuine reaction, right? And also, is this just another form of protest? And how far should this be allowed in a free society? Lots of questions there for sure. So anyway, this is a way of showing the power of interest groups. some of the interest groups and some of the debates there on just how much power should an interest group have, in this case, a labor group. All right, we'll stop there with our point to ponder on Chapter 11, interest groups. Next time we're together, we'll be looking at Chapter 12, Congress.